In this video, I'm going to be comparing the Xbox Series S to the PlayStation 5 digital only edition. This is going to be the battle of the diskless consoles. So if you're in the market for a new games console, but you're not too fussed about it having a disk drive, and you want to save a little bit of money, then this is the video for you. We're going to be comparing the Xbox Series S, which is Microsoft's smaller, cheaper, diskless Xbox, to the PlayStation 5 digital edition, which is essentially the PlayStation 5 without a disk drive. So we're going to be comparing these two current gen game consoles to hopefully make your decision a little bit easier. The first thing to consider when choosing between these two consoles is the price. And the Xbox Series S does win, as it is £100 cheaper than the PlayStation 5. You're able to pick up one of these Series S's for about £250 and even cheaper on the used market, whereas this PlayStation 5 digital edition will set you back about £350. So that's 1 point to the Series S. The Series S is the less expensive console, and in terms of games, the games cost about the same between the two consoles, as well as the online services. They're around about the same price. So in terms of price, the Series S is the less expensive console. You will be saving about £100 going with the Series S over the PlayStation 5. So the second thing we're going to compare between these two consoles is the design. So let's have a look at the Xbox Series S, which is essentially just a white cuboid. And I do want to say that I am a fan of the design of the Series S. I think it's more industrial than the PlayStation 5, and it's in many ways a more compact, more practical design than the PlayStation 5. And it's also got the iconic black fan, which adds a bit of contrast to the console. And in terms of I/O, apart from lacking a disk drive, the Series S is actually doing pretty well. It has a USB Type A at the front with a controller pairing button, power button on the front. And in terms of the back of the console, it's doing pretty well. It has a power slot, storage expansion slot, HDMI out, 2 USB-As and an Ethernet port. One thing that this Series S is missing out on is USB-C ports, which the PlayStation 5 does have. There aren't any USB-C ports on this console, so that is something to bear in mind if you are considering picking up one of these. Moving over to the design of the PlayStation 5 digital edition. As you can see, in my opinion, the PlayStation 5 is a much more interesting design. It's got that iconic vampire collar design, which some people might like. And you've also got the ability to pull off these white panels on the sides and customize them with different colored panels, different designs, which is another level of customization which the Series S doesn't offer. One thing that is worth noting is the size difference between these two consoles. So I've actually got the PlayStation 5 Slim, which is the smaller version of the PlayStation 5, and as you can see, even compared to the Series S is a smaller console. So if you're after the smaller, more portable console, then the Series S is probably the way to go. In terms of the overall design of the PlayStation 5, I also mentioned this in my unboxing of this console. If you want to watch that, there'll be a link somewhere up at the top of the screen. But my opinion of the shape of this console still is the same. I think this is quite an awkward shape. It's not as kind of easy to mount next to a TV as the Xbox Series S. And if you don't buy a stand like this, then the console is at risk of toppling over if you want to stand it upright. So in terms of just being able to easily put the console next to your TV, I think the Series S does win. This console does have rubber feet both on the bottom and on the back, so you are able just to pop the console down and it is safe and stable, which is something that can't be said for the PlayStation 5. So before we move on, I do want to mention the I/O of the PlayStation 5 Slim. So we have got 2 USB-C ports on the front, along with a power button. The back of the console is very similar to the Series S. We've got a power port, 2 USB-A ports, an Ethernet and a HDMI. So if you pick up a PlayStation 5 Slim digital edition like I have here, then you are able to upgrade the console to have a disk drive at a later date if that's something that you want. So it's a really nice feature. They've made the disk drive modular, which means you can buy the PlayStation 5 digital edition, and then later down the line, if you do want a disk drive, you can buy the disk drive separately and attach it to the console, and then you'll be able to play physical media on your PlayStation 5. And this is a feature that, as far as I'm aware, you're not able to do with the Series S. I don't think you're able to add a disk drive at a later date, so that is an advantage to the PlayStation 5. So before we carry on with this video, if you are enjoying, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 4,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. I never thought I'd have that many subscribers. So I really would appreciate it if you do enjoy, then drop us a like. Check out my channel. I make tech videos and occasionally some car videos. Sorry about this cheeky shameless plug. Let's get on with the video. So we're next going to talk about the performance and hardware specs of these two consoles. So on paper, it's a clear win for the PlayStation 5 digital edition. This console is significantly more powerful than the Series S, and that is because the specs inside this digital edition of the PlayStation 5 is exactly the same as the full-size PlayStation 5. Whereas with the Series S, this has stripped down specs compared with the Series X, so this is a less powerful console. So the question is, do the less powerful specs of the Series S actually make a difference when it comes to gaming? And the honest answer is sometimes. You'll find with the Series S that this console will run games at a lower resolution and some games at a lower frame rate. For example, when playing Elden Ring, the Series S on the performance presets will run the game at between 50 and 60 frames per second at 1080p, whereas the PlayStation 5 will run the game at a similar frame rate but at 1440p. And that seems to be the story with a lot of games on the Series S. It will run them really well, just at a lower resolution than the PlayStation 5 or the Series X. And at the end of the day, if you want better performance and better visuals, then you're probably better off looking at the PlayStation 5, just because it's a more powerful console. And there's one final thing to mention in terms of hardware between these two consoles, and that is storage. And in terms of storage, the PlayStation 5, specifically the slim version of the PlayStation 5, comes with 1 terabyte of internal storage. So the base version of the Series S only comes with 500 gigabytes of storage. Obviously, they do sell a slightly more expensive terabyte version of this console, but the base version does only have 500 gigabytes. So that is definitely something to consider if you're choosing between these two consoles. So we're next going to talk about the games that are available for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. So this is a very subjective section of the video, but at the end of the day, these are games consoles, so it is very important to kind of take into account which sort of games you can play with these consoles. So both of these consoles can play a lot of the same games, but they both have their individual exclusive games. So it's down to you which games you prefer. So I think historically the PlayStation has been known for having the better single player exclusives. You can play games such as Spider-Man, Demon's Souls, God of War, which are all PlayStation exclusives. But unfortunately in 2024, I don't think PlayStation have released that many exciting exclusive games. And I think Xbox have upped their game, and there are some decent Xbox exclusives. So if you're into the Halo series, you'll be able to play all the old Halo games. And it is worth mentioning that Microsoft now own a lot of game studios. So Activision Blizzard, who make Call of Duty, are now owned by Microsoft. I don't think Microsoft are planning on making the Call of Duty series Xbox exclusive, but you never know. And Microsoft have bought Bethesda, which is the game company behind Fallout and Skyrim, so it is worth keeping that in mind that Microsoft do own a lot of large game studios now. So it may be the case that the next Fallout or the next Skyrim is an Xbox exclusive. I don't think that will be the case, but you never know. I'm also going to touch on the game subscription services of these two consoles. So on the Xbox side of things, there's Game Pass Ultimate, and PlayStation has PlayStation Plus Premium. These are both subscription services that cost around about £10 to £15 a month. They're a bit like Netflix for games. You subscribe and then you've got access to a range of different games that you can install on both consoles. And I think historically Game Pass has been the better service. There have been more games, and I still think that is the case. There are more games on Game Pass than there are PlayStation Plus, but in recent years PlayStation Plus has caught up. So I was recently having a browse on the PlayStation Plus game collection, and there are actually a decent number of good games. So games such as Ratchet and Clank, God of War, they're all available on PlayStation Plus, which is nice to see. But it is a similar story with Game Pass. There are a lot of exclusive games that you can play for free on Game Pass. So I'm not going to choose a winner. I think they're actually both pretty good services. So those services are worth keeping in mind if you are going for either of these consoles, because obviously you can't put physical media in both of these consoles. So the best way to play a large range of games without spending hundreds of pounds is probably to go with one of these subscription services. And I am happy to say that both of these subscription services, Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, are decent, so you probably won't be disappointed if you go for either of these. So in conclusion, which console do you go for? Do you go with the Xbox Series S or the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition? So to summarise, the Series S is the smaller, less expensive of the two consoles. This console is perfect if you want a console to go travelling with, because you can chuck it in your backpack. It's a very nice compact size, and you are able to play loads of current gen games with Game Pass, so this is definitely a very good option. On the other hand, the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition is a great console. It's more powerful than the Series S. This console also comes with more single player exclusive games, and you also get an extra 500 gigabyte of internal storage. So at the end of the day, which of these two consoles do you prefer? I'd like to hear your opinions in the comments below, and if you have enjoyed this video, be sure to drop us a like and consider subscribing. We're on the road to 4,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing, and I'll see everyone in my next video.